are back.
Woo!
How are you surviving the quarantine there, Dave?
I'm starting to get cabin fever pretty good.
Well,
if you know what I mean.
Yeah, I think everyone understands. Yes, we are back here at the Project X podcast. I am one of your hosts, Alan Smith, along with
Big Dave.
And we are going to talk about a subject that I think everyone has at least a little bit of experience with. And this episode we're going to call The Ones That Got Away. Now, when I first proposed this one to Dave, of course, whenever you use the phrase "the one that got away," you're usually talking about girls or guys, either way, depending. A romantic partner.
Yeah.
That's the one that got away. Type stuff. I wanted to expand that out to everything because we all have those stories of a vehicle or that you had an opportunity to buy but didn't, or different stuff like that, and you look back on it now like, oh man, or a job
or something stolen from you.
Yeah, any number of things. So that's kind of where we're coming from today. I know I have a list here, and Dave, and I'm sure Dave does as well.
I avoided the problem by not making a list and decided to just do this off the top of my head.
Yeah, so I made the list.
Sometimes thinking is a bad thing for me.
I tell you, I wanted to preface this because I think that there's one quote
okay
that sums this topic up nicely.
Yeah.
And it's one that I'm sure that you will know.
Yo.
Regrets, I've had a few, but then again, too few to mention.
Oh, Frank.
Yeah, a little Frank Sinatra there from My Way. And that ran through my head of, that's what, when you talk about the one that got away, there's regret in that.
Oh, yeah.
If for whatever reasons, do you want to start or do you want me to? Because, like I said, I've got a list of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I got about 7 items. Well, excuse me. I have 5 items and 2 people to talk about on here.
Okay, I'll go first.
Okay.
So, I've always kind of been a car guy and never had the money to do the car thing.
Right. Because cars are expensive,
Cars
folks.
are expensive. And I had a friend of mine who had 2 Camaros. He had an IROC and he had an 84 Z28 50 HO, which basically became the IROC the very next year.
Right.
Well, I couldn't afford the IROC, but he cut me a deal on the 84Z. And I bought it. And I had been doing work on it and I loved that car.
Oh, I remember this vehicle.
Yeah.
I remember it very well.
You remember how much I babied it and drove the devil out of it?
I know.
And
I'm here to tell you, folks, Dave loved this car. I mean, loved this car. So
yeah.
He was one leather jacket away from being that guy. With like the Camaro, like the hood ornament on the back of it or whatever it is.
when you go through buying what you can to get from point A to point B, and you finally get to buy something that,
especially when you're young, because you were in your mid-20s, whenever early 20s, I guess, when you bought it. So
I'm actually on my way to one of my college classes. And I had a guy in a 3/4, and I remember it vividly. Had a guy in a 3/4 ton Dodge 4-wheel drive, jacked up, pulled out in front of me, going the opposite direction from me. I'm headed east-west. He pulled out in front of me, going west-east.
Okay.
And if I had hit him, I was going right up underneath his front tires and would have flipped that truck and had it right in the T-tops on me.
Right.
So I swerved to get around him and ran right smack into the back of a gold Dodge Caravan. And he left the scene of the accident, and I went to the hospital. And it totaled that car.
Yeah.
And
that year, in the mid '80s, when they started making those things, they weren't made out of anything.
No,
not like, because I talked about this before. I had a '75 Camaro.
Yes,
that thing was metal from bumper to bumper.
You would still be driving it today, even after hitting that Dodge Caravan. And
it would have tore the crap out of that Caravan, and still been.
And what makes it worse is the person I hit was actually I'm originally from Kentucky, and the person I hit happened to be the wife of the district attorney from the town that we had moved from. And it was, it was a thing.
Yeah.
And what was cool is that the police showed up at the hospital, as they do, to ask, what happened and all that. And they told me that they could tell by the skid marks I was trying to get around something.
Right.
And I told them about the truck and what it looked like.
Right.
And yeah, he totally fled.
Yeah.
So if you're that dude and you're hearing this, if I ever find out who you are, you owe me a Camaro.
Yeah. Dave has a list. You're on it.
I have a list, and you're top 3. Pal.
Right. Well, it's funny, and I think I've told you this story before. Our friend Andy, I was at work. It was when I was working at the video store, and I get a phone call from him in the middle of the day. He's like, "Hey, man, Dave's been in a car wreck." And I'm like, "What?" He was like, "Yeah," because he lived in Hendersonville, at the time, and he called me because he was like, "Yeah," he's like, it looks pretty bad. They're putting him in the back of an ambulance, he was driving by there and saw it, and then he called me. It's like, oh, okay.
Well, it's right in the middle of Hendersonville, I know, right in front of the Taco Bell,
which is funny because there are so many wrecks that happen on that stretch of down. There's about a 2-mile stretch of highway right there in the middle of Hendersonville on what's called Main Street.
Yeah.
That there are wrecks constantly out there.
It's 2 lanes one direction,
2 lanes the other, and there's
turn
a turn
lane. And in one section, there's actually 3 lanes.
Right.
A turn lane and 2 lanes.
Right.
And you're better off taking back roads and trying to find a stoplight than you are trying to pull out.
Exactly. And like I said, I have seen Rob, my buddy Rob, one of his little brothers was in a really bad, he's still got really bad, he had head trauma because of it that happened right there in that same.
That's probably half of what's wrong with me, because I bent the steering wheel of that Camaro to the dashboard with my forehead.
That explains so much, man.
Actually, that's probably, doctor thinks that's probably why I have the migraines I do from time to time.
That would make sense. Yeah. Anyway, I have one. I mean, unless you want to keep talking about that.
Go ahead.
I have a vehicle on mine also, not quite as traumatic that way. And unfortunately, I don't know what year of the vehicle.
Is it the Caddy?
No.
Really?
This is something I never owned.
Okay? Oh, okay.
When I was 20 years old, I was working for my dad, and there's a guy that we had gone to church with. He was a barber. And my dad got his hair cut there, know. And so we went over there one day, and we're sitting there, and his name was Eddie. And Eddie was telling us that he had a son who was a couple years younger than me. And he was saying that he had it was a Suzuki 500 motorcycle. Okay?
Okay.
And Justin, his son, he really kind of started poking around it quite a bit and getting interested in everything. And Eddie was kind of kids. I think he was like 17 at the time, getting ready to turn 18 or something. He's like, I really don't want him getting on that bike. And he's like, so I think I'm going to sell it, and everything.
Yeah.
And it was one of those things. It's like, oh, really? Like how much you asking for it? And he's like, Ben, he's like, honestly, he's like, I've got the bike, and he's like, had a couple of helmets, that kind of stuff. He's like, I would take $400 for. Yeah, and this is in 1994, okay?
$400 for the whole kit and caboodle?
Yeah, I know. So it's one of those things that we're sitting there, and I was like, and it's what was funny. This is the funny thing, is we're sitting there, and I'm like, okay, well, that's cool, And I wasn't even really serious, because it was just kind of, it was more of a, I'm just interested, like, how much are you selling it for, type stuff. And my dad leans over, and he's like, you got $400? And it's like, no, I don't, And he was like, and he sat there for a minute, and he turns back, he's like, well, if you decide you want it, I might be able to float you a loan. Yeah, I know. Which surprised the crap out of me to begin with. Okay,
dude, I would have jumped on that in a heartbeat, because you know how bad I want a bike.
Well, here's the thing. Okay, there's more to this story. Okay.
Yeah.
I went over the next day. I got in touch with Eddie. I went over the next day to look at the bike and everything. Gorgeous bike. It had this beautiful green, it was green and black, and it was that fade where it started green and came back into the black, and everything. And it needed a little bit of work. It didn't start right up. You had to use the Kickstarter on it, because there was something. It's like, hey, we can get the ignition, get that worked on, not a big deal, especially for the price, everything. I'm like, all right, cool. So, and I get back like an hour and a half later or so. Because I was over there talking to his kids because, we knew each other and that kind of stuff. I get back and my dad's out in his truck, and I was like, man, it's a great bike, and everything. And he's like, I can't give you the money.
Oh.
And I was like, what? And he was like, I can't give you the money. I'm like, why can't you give me the money? And he looked inside. My mom was sitting on the couch, and she had this stern look on her face of he had dropped the nugget that where I had gone and what I was doing, and she put a stop to that in a heartbeat.
That sucks. That sucks.
And that's something that's been over 25 years ago. Dude. I still think about that bike quite often. Man, what would my life be like if I... Now, granted, I could have gotten in a really bad wreck or something, during that time period. Yeah. But it's still kind of one of those like, man, I have thought about that bike so much over the years of it was right there in the palm of my hand.
It was a Suzuki.
It was a Suzuki 500. It was, I want to say it was a mid 80s model. It was it was about 10 years old at the time. So I guess it's probably a 84, 85, 86, somewhere around in there. But yeah, it was motorcycles, they last forever. And, so it's but yeah, I have thought about that bike so much over the years of, man, I wish I had purchased that vehicle or I had been able to, So
just curious.
Well, you looking it up to kind of get a feel of what it looks like?
Well, I was just kind of looking to see
no.
for sale.
Oh no. It's no, believe me, I have especially this time last year I was really looking at motorcycles. And I've really been surprised how much they still cost for something even that old.
Is that it?
No. It wasn't one of those. It was the, if you...
Is it more like a cafe style?
Yeah.
So like this dude?
Yes, exactly. Yeah, exactly. Uh-huh. So...
that one's only like $1,500.
Yeah, what's the big difference from $400? Okay, that's
inflation, man. Inflation.
But you guys the fact that my dad, without me asking,
that was cool.
Floated the idea of I could loan you the money.
See if he'd just been quiet about it.
And that was the mom knew something was up. That was the thing, and
she pressed him.
And it was. And she was not having it whatsoever. And I was still living at home. It was one of those. I know I was over the age of 18, but I was still living at home, and I still had to. And it was one of those things. I could have bought that bike. Like if I had gone somewhere and gotten the money or whatever, I could have bought it.
Yeah,
I wouldn't have had a place to live when I got back, but it was.
No, I get it. I'm actually looking at bikes too. I've been looking a lot of the Yamaha V-Star stuff.
Yeah. So,
because I can afford those, I can't afford a Harley.
Oh no, I know.
Or an Indian.
Well, I have been surprised, especially in the last year, of really looking at Harleys.
But most of them are Sportsters.
There are Sportsters.
You don't want a Sportster. They're kind of It
depends. For me, a Sportster would be fine.
Yeah.
Because I'm smaller than you. I'm shorter than you. It's not all that kind of stuff.
It's not even that.
I know they're a little top heavy. And,
I've talked to some of the guys. They don't make them as well because they consider the Sportsters an entry level,
right?
And so they tear up really easy,
right? And that's what I want to get an entry level, and then I'll graduate to a hog.
What I've been told is to look at like the Honda VTXs or like the Yamaha V-Star stuff because they actually are more reliable.
We're talking motorcycles. Something that I've kicked around for years about possibly getting for an intro bike or whatever.
Yeah,
is a Suzuki Intruder.
Oh yeah,
they're not bad. They look good, but it's also one of those things that they're not bad bikes on top of it.
Yeah.
And the thing is I've heard really good things about them. So I don't know. Anyways.
Tangent.
That's the motorcycle that I didn't get to buy when I was 20 years old. It probably would have killed me.
See, I want a bike so bad it's just tearing me.
Every year, whenever it starts getting warm again, I'm like, oh man, I wish I had a bike, or I wish I had my old Jeep back. One of the two.
Oh, so. There's another one.
Oh, it's coming up on yours. Okay. Yeah. Well, do you want to go?
Just go ahead and do it.
All right.
So the Camaro happened.
Right.
And then I got a POS A to B car again.
Right.
And then one day I was passing a car dealership in Goodlettsville, and there was I think it was a 91 Jeep Wrangler, black, sitting on and they only wanted like $5,000 for it. which
It's not bad.
not bad. It's
No.
kind of high mileage, but not bad. And
Again, those things will run forever as long as, I mean.
and it was the 4-cylinder,
Right,
which
it was-
doesn't have a lot of speed to it,
Nope.
but will climb a wall. They have so much torque.
Yep.
And,
I know. I had a 94 for years and years and years,
Yeah.
and it was the same thing.
Well,
And-
I ended up buying it and riding it, driving
you
it.
drove
and
that thing
driving it,
forever, I
driving
know.
it. And whoever had it before me did not take care of it. And it was a money pit. And at some point, because the person who did not take care of it, I had to replace the engine in it.
Well, I'm here to tell you, Dave, even if you take care of them, they
Oh,
are still a money
no,
pit.
no,
That is-
I know that. I know that. But this one,
Jeeps are a money pit.
this was an especially
Yeah.
deep. And
I know. I had to replace the engine in mine also.
Yeah.
You know that.
well, then I found it started doing this thing where I'd be driving along and all of a sudden it was just like it was out of gas. And I'm looking at my gas meter and be like, I've got like 3/4 of a tank. And
Gas gauge was off. So
No, gas gauge was not off.
Oh, really?
Because I had the shop check it 2 or 3 times. They're like, no, this is fine. I don't. And what they realized is Jeep, when they made their gas tanks,
Right.
they put a plastic baffling system in the gas tank. And after a certain amount of time, gasoline deteriorates
Right.
plastic. Well, that plastic baffling system had broken loose inside the gas tank. And, with you driving, it's moving all over the place. And eventually it would clog the hole where the
so
gas
you said
is
you would get
feeding.
any gas. Yeah.
And so it would kill the engine. So I would get, coast, pull off the side of the road, get out, grab the roll bar, shake the
it.
crap out of the Jeep. So the baffle would move,
Yeah.
get back in, start it right up, and just go on down the road.
Right.
And did that for years. And finally got the money to where I could replace the gas tank. And when I was at college at Western, I was coming home one cold winter night home to see, the wife, who was then girlfriend. And I was coming down the ridge on 65. And it was so cold, the thermostat on the radiator had frozen open. It did not let me know that the engine was overheating.
Right.
And I boiled that radiator dry, and the engine seized up halfway down the ridge. And I just pushed the clutch in, pulled it into neutral, and coasted all the way down to
yep.
the next exit, pulled off, and then made a call.
Right.
And, of course, engine's blown. Gonna have
Right.
to. I was like, I can't afford to put a new engine in this thing. I'm just going to have to get a new car. And Dad had it towed to the house and put in the front yard. It sold it for $3,000 with a blown engine.
Yeah.
And last year before last, I went to one of the football games where I graduated from to, see some friends and to watch their kids in the band that I, marched
Right.
in also. And there was sitting my Jeep behind the stands
Oh,
as I
nice.
was leaving.
Nice.
And the reason I know it was my Jeep is there was this one screw that was always coming unscrewed. So I had a screwdriver with a magnet on it that I had stuck up underneath the dash where you wouldn't know to look for it unless you knew where it was. And the top was off and the doors are off. And I was like, should I?
Yes.
And so I walked up to it and I reached up underneath the dash and I got my
There's your
screwdriver.
screwdriver, yes.
But my Jeep is alive and well,
that's
and
good.
running around Hendersonville again.
Yeah.
And I would love to have that thing back.
Yeah, I sold mine before my son was born. And it was one of those things that, like I said, we replaced the engine in it. But
I actually got a picture of it. They didn't really change much. They put
Yeah.
a little bit of lift on it. They put a LED bar across the front windshield and put some new seats in it. And that's about
that's
all.
cool.
That's all
That's
they did to it, really.
yeah, so it's nice to know that it's still roaming the streets,
So I miss my Camaro. I miss my Jeep.
Yeah.
And then I got married, and I haven't had a fun car since then.
Well, you're probably not going to have one again
Which
for
is
a while.
probably
because,
why I'm looking at motorcycles.
Yeah,
at this
so
point. Which the wife has said I could have.
oh, that's cool. How many do you have on your list?
I'm going off the top of my head, so
Okay.
I'm following your lead.
Well, I'm going to go ahead and throw two of them in here because they're both small.
Yeah, go ahead.
And are you familiar if I say Amazing Fantasy number 15? Do you know what I'm talking
Yeah,
about?
it's a comic book, and I
It's a
think
comic
it's
book.
Spider-Man.
First appearance of Spider-Man.
Okay.
That's the one that tells the origin story, and all that kind of stuff.
Sure.
Very, very collectible. Like
Very
hard-
expensive, if I remember right.
Yeah, these days especially. Well, back in the
No, isn't it?
it's in the tens of thousands
Yeah, I was gonna
range,
say.
back in, and they're not impossible to get. Like I've seen a few of them, at shows and stuff where somebody has.
Yeah.
And usually, they're beat up and that kind of, but they still. I mean, even those are several $1,000s
Yeah.
these days. Well, back in the early '90s, somewhere in the local comic book store here, I walk in one day, and if you're familiar with the comic book stores, they always have like those books that are like behind the counter up on the wall, that are like the stuff that you don't put out, they're more expensive, type stuff. And
like all the Deadpool stuff I don't
yeah,
have.
exactly.
Thanks,
well,
guys.
so I'm there and I'm checking out one day, and I look up because I always would look, up on the wall and everything, and I look over the very end, and I'm like, that's a copy of Amazing Fantasy number 15. And so I walked around the counter, like the other side where you get over close to it and look at it, and it wasn't in great shape or anything. But there was a price tag on it. $350.
You didn't do it.
I didn't have the money.
Yeah.
But it was one of those things where I legitimately, for like the rest of the day, was trying to figure out how I could come up with that money, because it was gone the next day.
Oh, yeah.
But it was still one of those things where it was like, at a time in my life, there was a copy of my favorite comic book character's very first appearance in comic book form that was in a price range that I could feasibly afford. And
so you're a Spider-Man guy.
Oh yeah, I've always been a Spider-Man.
Okay.
That's my jumping on point with comic books with Spider-Man.
See, mine was Batman.
Yeah, and so it was. There it is, and then it was gone.
Yeah.
And I've never seen one even remotely getting close to that price. So that's one I've again.
Now, comic book men pretty much urge you for that.
Again.
Thanks, Kevin Smith.
Almost 30 years later, and between 25 and 30 years later, I still think about that every once in a while. And when I walk into that store, I'm always like looking at what's up on the wall,
Comic book men ruined that for you, like Barrett Jackson Autos ruined collectible cards for me.
The thing is that it's I've been collecting comic books since I was when I was 10 years old is when I really started.
Yeah.
And so 40 or 36 years of that, I don't do new comics anymore. I pretty much have just been trying to fill in some holes in my collection, that kind of stuff. But there are certain things that like are on my these are books I would love to have one day, that, and, a Giant Size X-Men #1, and a few things like that. And on that same Amazing Spider-Man #121, which is The Death of Gwen Stacy, I was looking through some recent purchases that this place had about 12, 14 years ago. And there was a copy of it there, and it was one of those things where it wasn't unreasonable. Again, I mean, it was like less than $20, and for some reason my brain just didn't, the synapse just stopped all of a sudden, because it was something I could have easily, I'm going to get this and then I'll have a copy of it. Didn't do it.
Yeah.
And I've thought about that quite a bit, because the thing is even bad copies of that are a couple $100 now, so I'm just like, never mind. Yes. There's a few things like that. That one wasn't even on my list. It was just a thing.
Oh, yeah.
Almost 10 years ago, okay?
Yeah, right.
I had started a new job. I was coming up on a year of sobriety. I had got a new job. I was making decent money for the first time in a while, and kind of had got my life together and everything, and I was just started dating this new girl that I was really into, all that kind of stuff. And I was like, it's time to move out of my house, because those of you who listen don't know, I've lived in the same house my entire life. But this house has been in my family for close to probably 60 years, 65, 70, maybe even close to 70 years.
Okay.
My great grandparents owned it. When my mom was pregnant with me, my great grandmother had kind of gotten to the point where she couldn't live by herself any longer, so she moved in with my grandparents, and then she gave the house to my parents, because they're a young couple with a kid on the way, that kind of stuff. My parents, when my grandmother, about 20 some odd years ago, by the time it was shortly after, I was already looking into getting out of the house, because I finished college, and I'm like, all right, I'm done with this. Let's it's time to start, roommates and all that kind of stuff and get out and that kind of stuff. And my parents like, look, your grandmother, we got her, she bought a new house, sold the old one because the old one was just way too big for her. And so they basically built they decided they were going to build another house onto the house that she lived in so they could take care of her, type thing. Where it's like she would have her side of the house, she would have her own place, they would have their own place. But they were right there in case anything happened. And up until she passed, recently, that was the living arrangement and stuff. And so it was one of those, hey, look, we were, given this house whenever, and so it kind of passed to me.
Nice.
I'm an only child, so yeah, I know, poor me. So, but it was one of those things that this was before we had really started talking seriously about, the title, and I've been living here, that type of stuff. And so I was like, I really would like to get an apartment. I wanted to be in a much smaller place. At the time, the house needed a lot of work.
I can see that, and I can't see that.
Yeah,
because
it was more of a, I don't want to always live here. And it was also one of those things where I'm like, all right, let's see, I'm in a place where I can do this. So I went and I found an apartment. Went through everything, and I even signed a lease on it. And it was one of those things that I wasn't going to move in for 30 days or whatever, but I'd already signed, put the deposit down and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
In the meantime, I decided I was going to get married, and that wasn't going to be feasible for us.
Yeah.
And so we were like, all right, well, this is what we'll do. We'll just stay here until we can, we get another place, type of blah, blah, blah. So I had to of course, I lost my deposit, which wasn't a ton of money, but it was still one of those things
probably
of
$500 or something.
No, not even that. I think I put $100, $150 down under something,
Oh, that's back when you
this
could afford an
was
apartment.
this was before the rents went through the roof here. Matter of fact, I think my rent was going to be $600 a month. And
how many rooms?
It was one bed. It was a loft bedroom. And then the main room, and then a small kitchen and bath, type thing. Yeah. It's in Hendersonville, just that's right up the road.
That's about right.
And, it was one of those things, I really liked it. I was like, no, I could see myself living here without any problem. This is going to be, this would be great, and I never moved into it because I got stupid and decided I was going to get married again, and it was, but I have thought about that of what would it have been like having another, living in a different place, that kind of stuff. So
as somebody who has moved around quite a bit and has always lived in a different place,
right?
Let me tell you, I see where you're coming from, but at the same time, I'm kind of looking at you going, it would kind of be cool to be able to live in the same place for a very long time,
right?
With the roots put down.
Yeah, and it's not. The thing is that in that time period, I've done a lot of work to this place, completely, redid the kitchen and the dining room, built our podcasting studio here.
Yep.
Redid a lot of stuff in the house, put down new flooring, all that kind of stuff. So it's a whole different house now, which is, it's pretty nice. It's cool, that kind of stuff. But it's just, of course, again, in a different place and to be able to do all that kind of stuff. But I still have sometimes wondered about that apartment, about what would it have been like living there as opposed to,
I can tell you what happens. You pack up all your stuff and you move, and then you unpack the stuff that you actually need, and then you don't get any further than that.
Yeah.
And now you've got all these boxes of all this stuff that you probably do need, and you probably need to unpack and go through and all that, and either decide I'm going to keep it or get rid of it. Well, but they end up just sitting in the attic and the garage and that spare bedroom.
It was also one of those things
behind your chair. And
yes, I've been to your house. It was one of those things that, moving from the house that I'm in, which is quite large, to a small, basically a one-bedroom apartment.
Yeah.
It was, and at the time, I didn't have a lot of stuff, admittedly, but it was still going to be more than what would have fit in that apartment. So I was kind of going through I guess I'm going to get rid of this, or I could put this in my parents' attic. It was kind of going through the what goes with, what doesn't, all that kind of stuff. Now there's no way I could do something like that.
Well,
so it's
even after I got married and the wife and I kind of combined our houses, and we ended up with some of her grandparents' because we moved into her grandparents' farmhouse, because it was just sitting there empty, and her family let us rent it. that was like a 3,200 square foot house.
Right.
And when we moved to the house that we're in now, we have 1,200 square foot.
Yeah, it's a big drop off there. So.
And my mom is thinking about selling her place and getting a condo. So I'm getting ready to have to get a storage unit because she's like, every weekend, it's like, come get your boxes of stuff that I packed up for you.
I know.
It's like, oh.
Storage units, man. Who would have thought? Big business now.
I wish I had invested.
All right, go ahead. Your next one.
Well, speaking of that farmhouse that we lived in, of course, it was way out in the country.
Right.
15 minutes from the house, we would lose cell phone coverage, which
is nice in certain.
Working in IT, it was nice to have a hard unplug.
Right.
When I got home, I didn't have to worry about people bothering me. At the same time, it was kind of inconvenient. But
right.
One day, when I was at work, somebody came by the house and kicked the back door in and robbed us. And of course, they got a couple guitars. They got a bow that a friend of mine had custom done for me, which really makes me angry because I never got to shoot it. And they got a pistol that my dad had given me. But the thing that really hacked me off the most is they stole the shotgun that my dad gave me for my 18th birthday that he had gotten, for his 18th birthday.
Oh, okay.
And if I find the person, this is number one on the list.
Yeah,
if I find the person who kicked in my back door and got that Winchester, it was a Winchester 1200 16 gauge pump. I find out who stole that from me, you better hope the cops find you first.
Yeah.
That was, I've never been so heartbroken over anything that bad. Because that was, he gave me two rifles, or he gave me two guns basically for birthdays. He gave me a .22 that he got when he was 9, and he gave me that shotgun he got when he was 18 on my 18th birthday. And if I could get that shotgun back, that would be awesome.
Right.
But if I could get one that's in pretty good shape, similar, I would be okay, because it's kind of a hard one to find because it was in 16 gauge, and not 16 gauge is more of a European caliber. The Europeans really love 16 gauge because they're more doing like pheasant hunting and that type of thing. In America, people really don't do 16 gauge much. It's either 20 or 12. And I like the 16 because it was big enough for the big stuff and small enough for the small stuff.
It's
and
very versatile.
Yeah, exactly. I would do quite a bit to get that shotgun back.
Plus the sentimental.
Exactly.
I mean, that
exactly.
Just being passed down 2 generations, wow.
If I ever find out who you are, I'm going to beat you to death with it. With it, yeah.
Oh, man. Yeah. I tell you, I get... Again, let me do 2.
Yeah, no, go ahead, because I'm always doing that to you.
Well, but the thing is that one of these is just kind of after I had graduated from Ball State, I took kind of a gap year, because I was like, all right, I'm going to go work for a little while. I've been in school, for a while. But I decided I was going to go back to school.
Yeah.
And so I applied to Austin Peay State University, which is in Clarksville, Tennessee.
Just up the road from
Just
my
up
house.
the road, and not that big a deal. And was accepted, and I was working on getting everything together to do that.
What were you going to study?
This was, I had finished up my associates in liberal arts at this point.
Sure.
And so I was just going to continue that. But I had also decided that when I went off to do that, I was also going to do a minor in English.
Okay.
Because and not just do that, but along with that, at that point I had kind of gotten to the point I was like, I kind of want to be an English teacher.
Okay.
And so it was kind of one of those things. It's like, let's work through all of that. It was going to be one of those things that when I went, it was, okay, I'm working on this, but I'm really working towards this. It was like, this was going to feed into this,
Sure.
type stuff, going through and taking the education classes and all that kind of stuff. And I never did. And that was kind of one of those things that I look back now, quite honestly, if I had done it in hindsight, I probably would have shifted rather than English into history, because when I was coming out of high school,
I
had
see that. We both kind of had an interest.
I had
in history.
I had expressed interest in getting a degree in history. To teach history, American history, and that kind of stuff. And I never did it. And it's kind of one of those things that I've many times wondered, like, did I miss my calling to being a teacher?
It's never too late to go back.
I know.
Just for you and for the general, it's never too late to go back to school and try something different.
I have known plenty of people who older than me, who have gone back and completely gotten into a different.
And actually, Tennessee's community college system,
I know,
to plug, my employers, are perfectly set up, to help people do that, especially with the programs that Tennessee's got in place.
Exactly, I agree with that. So that's one of the things I've thought about again multiple times. I really wish that I had pursued that a little, and gotten my teaching degree, that type of thing. Obviously, the liberal arts is not going to feed directly into that. I was going to have to take other classes and that kind of stuff. But it was one of those things that, because of a professor at Vol State, one day pulling me aside because of a presentation where we had to get up in front of the class and everything, he pulled me aside afterwards and was like, "Have you ever thought about going into teaching because you're really good at talking to people and presenting all this stuff and everything?" And if you listen to this show, I'm really good at talking. So
you can't beat him at talking.
But
if he can't beat you with his fist, he'll
I can beat you with words.
I
can definitely beat you with words. That's but yeah, that's something. Again, we're 20 odd years past that, and I've thought about that a lot. Even my ex-wife at one point said something about, why didn't you go into teaching? Like, why? Because I tell you what it was. We were sitting down to watch Argo. If you've seen Argo, there is that little, I think it's 7 minutes on the front of it where they're explaining the history of everything.
Yeah.
Well, before we turned because it was one of those things, we started to sit down. She's like, I don't understand, because she was younger than me. Like, she was actually born when all that. She was a baby when all that stuff was happening.
Yeah.
And so it was one of those things where I was like, oh yeah, and I basically, without having seen the movie, laid out that entire first 7 minutes of it beforehand, and then we turned on the movie, and it's like, oh yeah, this is just recapping everything I just said. And but that comes from my just my love of history, and that kind of stuff.
See, I took so many history classes.
I loved history classes.
Oh, especially the history teachers we had at Volunteer State. I took so many that I could have taken one history class at Western and had my history minor.
There you go. Yeah.
But that's not what I wanted to do.
Right. I know.
I actually wanted to minor in, what was it? It was, computer sciences. Mm-hmm. But unfortunately, I was going to have to double minor because it was a liberal arts school.
Right.
And because that broadcasting media, television, video production was considered a science.
Yeah.
And computer science, I wasn't getting enough liberal arts stuff, so I had to. What happened is my wife was actually working towards her master's in folk studies, which basically anthropology broke off from.
Right.
And I was like, "You've already got all these books, right?" And she was like, "Yeah." I was like, "I'll just pick up folk studies as a minor."
There you go.
And I ended up loving it. And basically what it did is it set me up to be able to do documentary filmmaking, and I never got to do that. So I guess that's
If anyone out there is wondering what you do with a liberal arts degree or a folk studies degree, you podcast. That's what.
No, that is not true. That is not true. Actually, if my wife had finished her master's, and I'm going to take the hit on that, it's kind of my fault she didn't, because of money and stuff. She could have actually been the head over the Biltmore or some museum or something like that.
I used that same joke a few months ago when I was driving. I drive for a ride share, for those of you who don't know.
Yeah.
And I had some kids. I say kids, they were in their mid-20s, and they were talking about school. They had just graduated, from school, or they the previous year, and they were kind of like, oh, blah, blah. And so everybody was like, so what did you major in? And they were like, so what did you major in? I was like, oh, I'm a liberal arts degree. And I said, and you know what you do with a liberal arts degree? You drive for a ride share. That's exactly what you do with it. So that joke went over really well with them as well. So
I'm sure.
I've heard that joke so many times. People use it for whatever they're doing. This is and it's like, that's kind of so. I had that. And the other one, that one wasn't supposed to take as much time. 20 years ago.
Yeah.
I was working at CD Warehouse, and this was at a time when I didn't have any responsibility whatsoever. And
that's different.
Well,
now
I know, but this was
I'm kidding.
Well, but I've got a kid now, and that kind of. But this is when I had zero responsibility
I'm
whatsoever,
just giving you crap.
and a lot of disposable income. And so I got on eBay, and I started looking. I had decided because I was playing music and that kind of stuff, and I really was wanting to get a new guitar.
Yep.
Actually, I was wanting to get an old guitar, but I wanted to get a new type of guitar. So I started looking at Gibson SGs, okay?
Yeah.
And I found this incredible deal. Like I was following this auction on eBay. It was a 1972 SG, okay? And it wasn't all original. They'd taken the tremolo, the Bixby tailpiece off of it and everything, and it was just a hard tailpiece that was on there, which was fine because I never use a tremolo bar, any of that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But I kind of took I started watching it, got down to it. I placed a bid, like with 24 hours left to go or something like that, and wound up winning the auction. And it came with a hard shell case, original 70s hard shell case and all that kind of stuff. And I had it shipped to my store because I was there more than I was at home, like when it would have come in. So I wound up paying... with shipping and everything, I wound up paying just a little over $700 for this guitar. Okay? Yeah. Okay?
Yeah, nice.
And I loved that guitar.
Yeah.
Loved that guitar.
I think I remember that guitar.
Yeah, it was that brown.
Yeah.
And it was one of those things that at one point it had been the cherry finish, but over the years it had faded. Like you could, on the back, you could still see a little bit of the cherry on it, but it had faded to a nice, beautiful brown. That guitar had the best tone. It stayed in tune. It played. The neck was great. I mean, it was just
back
one of those,
when Gibson actually made it.
Well, it was made in
guitar.
'72. I mean, it was a '72. I mean, it was an older guitar. I loved that guitar. I mean, loved it. I mean, like more than any other guitar that I've ever owned.
Yeah,
and have owned since then even. And so it was one of those things. Is all well and cool. Well, fast forward a couple of years, and I decided to get married.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, what's the thing that comes with getting married? You have to get an engagement ring.
Mm-hmm.
Not having a whole lot of money at the time, there was one thing that I had that was of value.
Yep.
And I wound up selling that guitar at a profit from what I had purchased it three years earlier, whatever it was.
Yeah.
And sold that guitar and bought an engagement ring. Needless to say, I've been married twice, so that didn't work out so well. I have neither the guitar nor the ring.
One thing
nor the wife. And
one thing I have learned from my friends,
yes,
because.
And I think there's a song in there somewhere.
Oh, there is. I think it has a country twang to it.
Yeah, pretty much. So,
as I've said in previous podcasts, for me and the wife, divorce isn't an option.
Right.
Murder is.
Murder's an option, but not, yeah.
But something I've learned from watching my friends, get divorced and lose stuff, is you never sacrifice guns, cars, or musical instruments for a relationship.
Right. And that, again, that was in 2003 when I sold that. So we're talking 17 years ago.
Yeah.
I think about that guitar almost every day.
Sounds like you need to...
Oh, I can't touch one now.
Oh, really? They've gone up that bad, huh?
No. Let's put it this way. If I went out today, like went to a Guitar Center or Sam Ash or someplace like that, and looked at an actual Gibson, not an Epiphone, but a Gibson SG that's not fancy, that's just
about
the
one
low
of the
end.
new ones?
Yeah, but I just was saying, and looked at one of those things, they start at about $1,000. That's for a new one, okay?
And the necks on those things suck.
I know.
And they break easy.
But you go back and you start looking at those vintage ones that are now coming up on 50 years old. Several grand.
Yeah.
And I'm like, had one.
Yeah.
Had a nice one that I loved, I tell you what, if you want to see what anybody who's listening, if you really want to know what it looked like and everything, and it's funny because when the movie School of Rock with Jack Black, the poster where he's got the SG or the SG looks identical.
Oh, I remember that guitar.
It looks identical. It's this. I mean, and it's one of those things because when I saw that poster, and I looked at it and I was like. I kept looking at the guitar because I was like, man, that looks so much like the one that I owned. It's not even funny. I was like looking, I was like, they even like filled in where the old Bixby, like the screw holes were. And I mean, it was one of those things that was like, I know it's not, but it was because there was a very distinctive, like, in the, I think it was in the 3rd fret on the mother of pearl inlay that was on there. There was a little bitty, like, crack in the inlay.
Yeah,
that I like the identifying mark on it, which is not there on that. But it was one of those things. When I first saw that guitar, I was like, I studied that that poster. I was like, is that my guitar? Is that my? But that's exactly, and it's the same as that brown, like with that faded brown and everything. Loved that guitar.
It wouldn't surprise me if it's not, because I know Jack Black's been through town several times.
But the thing is, I sold it on eBay. And I don't remember where I shipped it off to. I want to say it went to the middle of America somewhere whenever I did that. So I don't know. I mean, if I could have that guitar back. I wish I don't even have the serial number on it any longer, which is one of those things. I wish I'd kept that just as maybe I'll be able to track it down one day through that or something. I don't know, because there is a network, especially with classic guitars and stuff, where people like, oh yeah, I've got this and this is blah blah blah.
Maybe it's written down somewhere and you find it.
If it is, it disappeared a long time ago. So I'd have pictures of the guitar. Yeah. Like, I still have pictures of it on a hard drive somewhere.
Maybe you got a picture of the serial
number? I might. I don't know. I'd have to go and look. But, man, that 72 SG, I miss that guitar. And the thing is, I let a lot of different people play it. They were like, oh, you mind if I... And everybody talked about, man, the neck on this thing is so nice, and it played. I was like, I know.
That's see, that's like that Squier Stratocaster that I had that got stolen with the shotgun. Mm-hmm. It was only a Squier, but everybody that picked it up and played it loved it. Even you loved that guitar. I know.
And that's I have a Squier Telly or a Strat in here. Yeah. That was when I bought it about 10 years ago, a little over 10 years ago.
Because
it was
of
the
my
neck.
Guitar.
Yeah, but it was the neck. It was one of those things. I walked into a pawn shop one day and I picked it up and I'm like, okay, I'll look at this. Yeah. And that neck, I was like, oh, this is amazing. And I've had it ever since. So
it was a C-shaped neck and it was a maple fretboard.
Right.
And
that's the way mine is. So.
And it was fast.
I know. So anyway, 72 SG. You got something else? Because I'm out of objects now.
No, I'm gonna stop. I've done everything I'm gonna do because sure? I know these next two are gonna be good.
All right.
This is what we've been waiting for right here.
I have 2 stories. Both of them are women. Neither of them are anyone I was ever involved with. Okay. I'm gonna start with the first one. I was in college.
Yep.
It was the fall semester of 1994. I was 20 years old. Okay. I was in a long-term relationship, but it was falling apart. Like, quickly falling apart. Like, how much longer is this going to last before it's completely kaput? Yep. That was a bad semester in general because there was other stuff outside of that. There was just a lot of family issues and stuff that was going on that it was just a bad time. So I'm taking an English class. It was a fiction.
I remember that class. Yeah. I took that one.
And I was required. It was one of those, all right, cool. It was like English 201 or something. I don't remember what it was exactly. I love the class. Okay. The thing about it, though, is that there's a funny story that goes along with this. An aside on this one. This is going to be an in-depth story. I'm going ahead and tell you this right now. Okay. Yeah. So the previous semester, so this would have been the spring semester of '94. I was taking a class. It was a psychology class, And me and this guy, I cannot remember his last name, but his name was Benji. Okay, and we had a few classes here and there, and he was a good old boy, and we sat in the back of the class. Okay, and across the hall from us was an English class, and I know you know who I'm talking about, and don't say her name, okay? Because we're not going to say any. We're not going to say this person's name, okay?
Okay.
But we noticed early in the semester that the teacher was young and was this young, attractive blonde.
I know
you know exactly who I'm talking about. So and she was kind of, everybody knew who she was on the campus because she was. I mean, she was like, I think she was in her late 20s. It was one of those early 30s, maybe somewhere in there.
Smoking hot.
Yes, she was. And so we sat there for a whole semester, like
just staring across the hall.
And it was even up to the point of where, like, sometimes she would come in and she would be doing her class or whatever, and she'd look over across the hallway and see us looking at her. And on a couple of occasions, she went over and closed the door. Just as all right, So fast forward. So like I'm filling out, like when you're filling out for the next.
Yeah.
I found out who she was. Like what her name was,
and
I signed up for that class. Okay, and no, I'm not talking about some kind of relationship with a teacher here. Okay, this is just setting up the rest of it. Okay, so what was funny is that first day of fall semester, I come bopping up the stairs and go walking into the classroom. As soon as I walk in, I look at the very back row, and Benji's sitting there. And we both started dying laughing. I mean, it was like, oh, you did the same thing, didn't you? He's like, yeah. It's like, so we're sitting in the very back of the class, okay? Yep. And it was a small class. We were the only two guys in there. And I mean, we're talking like there might have been 15 people in there, and Benji and I were the only two guys. I take that back. There was one other guy that signed up who didn't last past the first week or something, okay?
Okay.
But come to find out, there was another girl in there that I knew. A couple, from that I'd known for a long time, type stuff. And so it was one of those things that it wasn't so bad. It's like, yeah, okay, fine,
Yeah.
But what was funny was when the professor comes in, she's like going through and she's calling the roll and everything. And the thing is several of the girls that were in there had her for another class, like for their 101 or whatever, whatever it was. And so it was one of those kind of like, oh, yeah. And so, she gets finished. She's like, well, I just want to welcome everybody here today. And she's like, I've got some returning students that I've been in my classes before. And she looks back to the back and she goes, and I've seen a couple of y'all around.
She knew what's up.
She knew exactly what was up.
She knew what's up.
I wound up loving that class. It was a good class.
Yeah.
It was, we did. She was a feminist, and we read a lot of female literature, which is fine. It bothered me, whatever. It was a good class. But I said all of that to say this. Okay. There was this girl that was in there. Okay.
Yeah.
This is what I can tell you about her. Okay. Her name was Tara.
Okay.
Her last name started with, I cannot remember her last name. I do know this. Her last name started with an M.
Mm-hmm.
It was about 15 letters long and had a lot of consonants in it.
Okay.
Obviously some Polish type name,
or Russian.
or something like that, But she was fully American. I mean, she was 100% American, but somewhere down the line, her family had come from that, the Eastern Bloc somewhere, Over the course of the semester, I talked to her quite a bit and got pretty friendly with her, just in class. And I noticed that she was kind of gravitating towards me a little bit, Yeah. And the thing is that she was blonde hair, blue eyes, thin, big boobs, I mean, like what you would she very much had what was model-esque in a lot of ways. But she was really cool, like very down to earth, very approachable, very, that type of stuff. And she worked at a restaurant, like I found out, and I went and ate there a couple of times. My dad and I went and ate there one night, and she was our server, you know, and it was one of those things. He even asked me about her. Like, so how do you know her? Like, we got a class together, and he's like, and he was noticing how
Yeah.
And that kind of stuff. Of course, I was still with the person that I was with at the time, even though everything's falling apart.
Yeah.
So over the course of from late August, when we started there, until late November sometime. Okay. And by the time late November rolled around, my relationship had ended, and that kind of stuff. And it was funny because my friend that was in the class, that, not Benji, but this other girl that I had known for a while, who we'd had classes together, plus the fact we had mutual friends and had known each other for a while. I think she had kind of been observing what was going on, and she even asked me about my, girlfriend, and I told her, I was like, no, we're not, that's been on the rocks for a while, and we're not together any longer, and that kind of stuff, But it was kind of one of those, I know she was fishing into what's going on here. So anyways, I say all of that to say this. If she did it once, she did it a dozen times over that 3-month period, of gave me her telephone number and said, hey, you should call me and we'll get together and hang out. She was one of those things. She was about a year older than me, and she had moved back here from California.
Sure.
Had an apartment, all that kind of stuff. And she was always like, yeah, you should, give me a call and we should, we'll get together and, come over to the apartment, we can study or this or that or whatever, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
Never called her. Then one day, she was just gone. Close to the end of the semester. I didn't even finish out. She dropped out.
Yeah.
Gone. Of course, I couldn't find her number anywhere. She had written, I remember very specifically her writing it down on several, and couldn't find any of that kind of stuff. Okay. So, of course, I'm kind of, especially now, the semester ends, you get through the holidays, all that kind of stuff. And I'm like, man, I wish I had her phone number. So, fast forward a couple months. I'm at the Great Escape here in Madison. Okay. I'm in there and I'm looking at it, and I'm over, they use music, CDs and all that kind of stuff. I'm flipping through, blah, 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 flipping through, look down, Tara's standing there. Like, huh. So I walk around, I'm like, hey. And she turned around, looked at me, and just eyes got huge, She's all like, oh my God, how, and gave me this big hug, and we got to talking. She's like, yeah, And I was like, what happened? You just kind of disappeared one day, And she's like, yeah, some stuff was going on, and I've kind of been dealing with some family stuff and this and that. And then she's like, I'm pretty sure that or she's like, I'm moving back to California. Just kind of, I miss it out there. I had built a life there and that kind of stuff, and I kind of miss it and all that kind of stuff. And I was like, oh, well, that's a shame. It was everything, and she was like, yeah, I know. And so we talked for half an hour or something. We're both shopping, oh, have you listened? Oh, yeah, that's a good CD. What about this? You're listening to blah, blah, blah. Go up to the counter and checking out and all that kind of stuff. And she was like, she was in front of me and she checked out, and she's like, I'm really glad I ran into you, because she's like, and she goes, I've thought about you a lot, from that, because you were somebody I really enjoyed talking to, all that kind of stuff, and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, yeah, it's a shame that you're moving back to California, And she's like, I'm not moving for another month.
If you tell me you didn't call her.
She gave me her phone number. She's like, call me, we'll get together and hang out before I go back to California. I never called her.
You
I
idiot.
know, and again, it's been 25 years since that happened, okay? And I have thought about her so many times in that time period.
You're such a moron.
And that, believe me, that sentiment right there has gone through my head so many times. Moron.
As a good friend, let me just go ahead and vocalize this to you. You are a stupid idiot. You get one last chance.
And still didn't.
And
yeah, I know. I especially when I was that age, admittedly, I'm not the brightest star in the sky now, but when I was that age, I was really, really inept and just an idiot. So
I don't know if it was just that I was desperate, but if a girl gave me her number, I was calling
and
man.
I'm not, dude, I am not joking. This girl was smoking hot. Like, and I mean, like, it was one of those things that, like, if she walked in the room, everybody turned around and looked at her.
Have you tried
know?
stalking her on Facebook?
I can't remember what her last name is. That's and believe me, way back in like even like in the MySpace days, you know, I'm like, how did she spell her? What was? I mean, because I'm serious, there was a ton of consonants. And I just remember it was Tara M, and that was it. So,
good.
So yeah, I know, but hey, never. Who knows? Who knows?
I'm embarrassed for you.
Yeah, that was not my finest.
You've had a lot of.
I've had a lot, but
moments,
that one's near the top of.
Had I
as
known,
as I have said many times, if I could go, if I were in the same room with the 20-year-old me, it would just be not just for that, but there would be a constant like. You're going to be lucky to get out of this room alive, kid, because I'm just going to beat you repeatedly.
See, if I had known this was going on, if I had been with you, I would have looked at her and said, "Give me the number because he's going to lose it."
It wasn't that I lost it so much. It was
lost
like,
it.
No, I
You'd
didn't.
leave it in your jeans. Your mom would wash it.
One time, there was this one time that like I was on the way up there. It was a early afternoon class, like right after lunch, you know. And I was driving past Krispy Kreme, and the light was on. So I was like, hey, it's not a big class. So I went and bought a dozen donuts, you know, whatever, because there was less than a dozen of us in there at that point because a few people had dropped out, you know. Hey, no big deal. I'm taking it. Get there, and the teacher wasn't there. She had something come up, so she had to cancel class.
Yeah.
Well, there's me and her and like two other people or something, you know. I'm like, I brought donuts, you know, and so we kind of sat around and talked for a little while. Everybody else kind of left, and it was just her and I for a while, you know. And we were talking, we were standing in the parking lot talking or whatever, and she's like, hey, I gotta go, I gotta work tonight. I'm like, yeah, I know. I was like, I've got another class coming up and blah blah blah. She reaches into her purse and pulls out a pen and writes on the top of the donut box her name and phone number, and she was like, call me sometimes and we will get together and hang out.
Blockhead.
And here's the thing, I tell that story, and now like all these years later, I kind of start thinking of it from her vantage point of, you know, she's got to be going, what is this moron? Like, why won't he call me?
Well, she got it right in the moron part.
I know. So it's, but again, I've thought about her a lot over the years.
Yeah.
And that falls perfectly into the ones that got away.
Yeah.
Okay.
Actually, you didn't let that one get away. You just kept throwing that one back in the lake.
Yeah, I know. That one, I didn't even catch that one. That one kept jumping in my boat, and I kept knocking it back out.
You're not supposed to jump in the boat. You got to get the hook.
I didn't catch you. Get back in the lake. It's idiot.
Yeah. Sometimes I wonder.
I know.
Okay.
I got one more.
Yeah,
I have one more, and I'm not.
Could it be as painful as that one? Is it as painful as that one?
Yeah. Because
why do I bother to ask?
Because I'm not going to say her name.
Okay.
For a lot of reasons. There was someone that was in my life for a long period of time.
Yeah.
That I really developed feelings for. We were friends. That was, you know, there was never anything more than that. We were friends. And it was one of those things that a lot of it, some of it was timing. Some of it was that I've not been someone who got involved with friends over the years.
Yeah.
Because I was friends with them for a reason.
Yeah.
Not that there wasn't an attraction, not that there wasn't more than an attraction there, but it was more of I don't want to come out the other end of this and not have them as a friend any longer.
Sure.
You know, and of course, you know, some people are like, well, if they're your friend, then, you know, it shouldn't be a big deal,
No.
because it's like, no. I have seen plenty of friendships
Changes
ruined.
the dynamic.
Absolutely. And this person was someone that I said, because I'm not saying her name, but I know that I'm probably going to give a lot away here when I say this. I have always maintained, I told her even one time, that she was one of my favorite people that I've ever met. And she still is one of my favorite people I've ever met, even though, you know, we're not in contact any longer, or at least not in real contact anymore. You know, Facebook, you're in contact with everybody,
Yeah.
you know, in some way. But it was just one of those situations where never could get the timing right.
Yeah.
There was one time where thought the timing was going to be right, and it wasn't.
Yeah.
The biggest regret I have out of all that is not that nothing ever happened or that I never really pursued her. It was a very unfortunate situation that came later. Dealing with social media and dealing with my alcoholism. The drunken message, you know.
Oh, yeah.
And, you know, it wasn't anything, you know, it was basically me pouring my heart out. And it was
the drunk I love you.
Yes, and it was, oh man, it was one of those things that at the time I was so like, I'm finally, you know, after all these years, and waking up the next morning and being like, oh, please can I unsend that? Please can I unsend that?
Nope.
And you can't. And it was one of those things that it was a full day before she got back to me, because she hadn't gotten, you know, and I was like,
either that or she got it or she's thinking about it.
And I was seriously like, should I send a message with, like, hey, like, read this first, of like, please just delete that message and don't, you know, but
if you send that message,
I know, and then I know
they go and they read it anyway.
And so there was when she finally did get back in touch with me, it was you know, there's so much going on in my life right now, and I know there's a lot going on in your life, and, you know, blah, 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 blah. And it was and you know, and it was a really nice no, okay, which was, you know, it probably deserved a much sterner than, you know, because there wasn't anything like you know, that was, but, you know, just drunken ramblings, you know, type stuff.
Yes.
But I do remember very distinctly after all that, like maybe an hour later, getting another message from her, and all it said was, I wish you had said something years ago. Yeah, I mean, like,
that hurts.
I know.
That hurts.
And it was one of those things that I was like, okay. And I got in touch with her a couple days later. I was like, look, I want to apologize again.
Yeah.
You know, and I was like, I would really like to get together and talk, not about that. I would just like to talk to you in general.
Yeah.
And apologize in person and all that kind of stuff, you know. I'm not it's fine, you know, that's I want you to know that this is,
I got it off my chest.
I got it off my chest. What I said was true, but
I don't have this bottled up anymore.
Exactly, and it's fine, and what you said was right, but I would still like to be able to apologize in person, and let's talk about it and kind of get over it. And it just never worked out that we did.
Sure.
You know, but the great thing is that, you know, she has a beautiful family now, you know, and a husband and a kid and all that kind of stuff. And I see, and I'm like, I am so happy for her, and I'm happy to still have her at least somewhat in my life.
Sure.
Nothing like it was before, you know, even in the friendship, because it's miles and miles away and all that kind of stuff. And also the fact that, like, you know, I'll be honest, I don't feel like I mean, that's been a while back, you know, but it's also one of those things, and you go on and that kind of stuff. It's like, all right, fine. I really wish we had gotten the opportunity to talk about it,
Sure,
just as a, but at the same time, I'm like, no, it's fine because we're adults. And, but she is someone that, again, I have thought about a lot over the years of doing the, well, what if at this point, or at this point, or at this point, type stuff, how different. Now, looking back on my life, I also look at that and go, I was a mess through all of those points. And so we would have no relationship now whatsoever because I know I would have screwed it up because I was a drunken mess for years and years and years and years, and she did not deserve to have to put up with that. So she will always be one of my favorite people.
Absolutely.
So that one, not quite as entertaining as my previous story of buffoonery, but So it just, like I said, not as entertaining as the other story, but one that when I first came up with this idea of things are the ones that got away. She was the first one that came to mind.
I get that.
So,
and it's not that I didn't have.
Oh yeah, I know. You're in a much different place. You are happily married. There's no use in dredging up all that stuff.
Well, and
and
there's a couple that I'm also still not ready to rip the scab off.
And there's that also. I mean, and that's I can. The Tara story, I can tell that story and laugh about it now. I've told that story many times over the years of to different people, and they all that exact same idiot. What in the But this story, really and truly, there's only one other person that has ever heard outside of her. There's only one other person who's ever heard as much of the story as I just told.
Sure.
So this was kind of it's time to get this out as you did this
and let it go.
Exactly, and
I am happily married.
Right.
But even if you're happily married, there are always those what ifs. You're always going to have those couple, what ifs.
Right.
And I've got a couple of those. I just don't want to talk about it.
I understand that. I mean, I understand that completely. I could probably put one or two more on this of one in particular that of someone who I actually was involved with and I really do not want to get into that story because even though that's been a long time, that's still one that gets me riled up. So
I know exactly
you know exactly who I'm talking about. So it's
that one actually gets me a little riled up.
I know. Well, it's funny, that one gets pretty much all of my friends riled up whenever her name surfaces. So
she who must not be named.
Yeah, it is. There's been many times over the years that I have spoken her name, and then all of a sudden she appears from nowhere.
She's almost like Beetlejuice.
It is.
Really.
It's that. Well, it's the whole speak of the devil, and the devil appears. And it's kind of that. So we don't talk about her. So.
Yep.
And that's a long story, so
that might be like a 4-parter.
Well, I really don't want to get into that one because that is
let's leave that one alone.
But anyways, that was the ones that got away. Some happy stories, some not. But a lot of what ifs. We all have them. Like I said, regrets. I have a few.
Find out who got my shotgun. I'm coming for you.
Dave's got a list, so it's.
I named number 1 and number 3 tonight.
There you go. You never say about number 2, huh? Not going to. All right. So.
All right. Well, I'm Big Dave.
So, if you would like to get in touch with us.
Oh, yeah, we got to do this. If you want to get a hold of us, we've got this stuff right here. All right. Hey, guys, we want to thank you for listening and supporting us all this time. Just wanted to let you know we can be found on Apple Podcast at Project X Pod. We're also on Google Play. We're on Stitcher. We're on Tuned In Radio. And hopefully we're going to be getting on some other platforms also. You can also get a hold of us by email at projectxpod@gmail.com. I've also got my own private one at bigdavexpod@gmail.com. We're on Twitter at Project XPod, and there's also at Big Dave XPod. We're on Facebook at Project X Podcast, and we're on YouTube. We're starting to do some stuff on YouTube at Project X Podcast. So If you like us, please spread the word. Let your friends know. If you can't stand us, tell all your enemies. You can torture them that way. Thanks, guys. We appreciate it.
All right, that's enough. Let's get on with the show.
All right. Bye.
And now that you know how to get in touch with us, please do tell us. You don't have to go into quite the details that
Guys,
we do.
we don't hear from
something
you.
else. Not even that. If you like the show, subscribe, and wherever that you get your podcast, whether it's Apple helps quite a bit because and post a review if you don't mind, because that helps quite a bit.
That will actually get us up in the ratings and get us more
listeners, exactly, and that type of stuff. Also, anytime you can. Obviously, we just told you, but really,
please contact us.
projectxpod@gmail.com. Believe me,
talk to us, folks.
The people who have got in touch with us, we've gotten back to.
Yeah.
And very quickly. Anything. And if you have suggestions for, we're always coming up with new topics here, but if there's anything you just want to hear about, I know a friend of ours got in touch with me the other night and was like, "Hey man, why don't you guys talk about this?" And I was like, that might actually be a decent something to talk about.
Sure.
I'm not going to say what it is because it's probably going to wind up being.
Well, my wife is always handing me
I know.
ideas.
And of course Corey, who was on with us, he's always like, "Hey, why don't you?" And you're like, "Yeah, that's my we'll probably have him back on at some point."
Yep.
But yeah, that's
and I've got some ideas for
other
for bringing people in and just talking to them.
But we've also had ideas for other growing this into a network more than just the one podcast.
Yeah.
And so there you go. We could have different shows about different topics.
Yeah.
Anyways, guys, thank you so much for spending an hour and some change with us this time around. I am Alan Smith.
I am Big Dave.
And have a good week.